In the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about, to highlight some of the structural issues that ethnic minority people face in Hong Kong. Then I will try to shed some light on South Asian household context, family, and some of the cultural practices. And that will lead me to my third objectives, that is to help educators to engage with ethnic minority students and families in emergencies. So just to remind very quickly who are ethnic minorities in Hong Kong. So anyone really, according to the government classification, anyone of non-Chinese ethnicities are classified as ethnic minorities. But for my sharing today, I am mostly going to focusing on South Asians. So that does include Pakistani, Indians, Nepalese, and Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan, and so on. So what is the poverty scenario for South Asians? At the moment, according to the latest figure, the poverty scenario for South Asians is 25.7%. That means 1 in every 4 South Asians living in Hong Kong is living below poverty line, and for Pakistanis it is about 50%. That means 1 in every Pakistani is living below poverty line. So for example, if you have in your class, if you have say 4 students from Pakistani background, it is very likely that 2 of them are living below poverty line. And then child poverty rates for Pakistanis or Nepalese are higher than the majority Chinese population, and Pakistanis have the highest child poverty rate among all ethnic groups. About 1/3 of total Pakistanis are receiving comprehensive social security assistance. So this is the overall poverty scenario for South Asians in Hong Kong. And then now let me move on their household context. On average, every South Asian household has 4.2 members. For a Pakistani, it's little higher. So for a Pakistani household, the average family members are 5, and it does mean typically 2 parents and 3 kids and adolescents, school going kids or adolescents. And the average size of apartments where Nepalese and Pakistani families live are 20 and 38 square meter respectively. And then now some family and cultural practices. Some of those practices probably you already know, but just I am reminding again because that has a consequence what they are facing at the moment. So for Muslims especially, they have several prayer times every day, and usually adult members in the family pray all those and then follow all these prayer times. And during Ramadan, which is fasting month, that is actually starting from April this year and will be continuing end of May. Usually in the Muslim families, there are some adult family members, they read Quran, that is the holy book of Muslims, throughout the day for the whole month. And given this scenario, now given this context and things, now I want you to imagine a scenario of a Pakistani family who have 5 members, and as I said, typically 2 parents and 3 school going kids and adolescents, and they are living in a 38 square meter apartment, and all 3 students are receiving online education at the same time in a given day. So what would be the consideration for these say family or this group of students in a particular family, or in general Pakistani students or South Asian students? So for this particular scenario, what are the consideration? Do all 3 students have proper devices to attend online classes at the same time? How is the bandwidth or Wi-Fi speed in the household for 3 live streaming at the same time? Does the flat have enough space for 3 of them to attend their classes in a quiet background? And we know Chinese language teaching is an issue for ethnic minority students in a face-to-face situation. So how that is making all these implications for their learning in the online mode? So these are the things as an educator we will have to think, we will have to consider when we are now performing education, providing online education in this particular emergency context. Okay, so how to deal with some of those issues, or what would be the possible directions to deal with some of these challenges? Maybe some asynchronous mode may be considered, where students may be allowed to study a pre-recorded class lecture. So the teacher can make a class lecture pre-recorded, and that can be shared with the students, so students can sort of study that in their own time. But to make sure students are engaging with that particular lesson, the students need to be given some tasks, so that students can finish that task after that lesson. Some synchronous class lecture can be recorded, so the face-to-face class that is happening, that can be recorded and shared with those students for further reference and revision. One-to-one or group support can be provided for the students who need them. And from the research, it is very clear that the role of ethnic minority teachers, if the schools have one or more, bilingual teaching assistants or ethnic minority education coordinators are crucial. So they have to be involved, and their roles are really crucial. And communication or collaboration with parents regarding the whole arrangement as a continuous basis is really important. So these are the sort of things that educators can think about to provide more support to ethnic minority students. Okay, so given the scenario that I have described previously and all the possible directions that can educators adopt to help ethnic minority students, now I am going to finish up this sharing by posing a big question, that is, how can equitable education for ethnic minority students be ensured as a priority agenda in school organizational policies? And at this point, I also want you to remind one of the major principles of Hong Kong education reform that was formulated back in 2000 is no loser principle, that is to provide same educational opportunities to every student regardless of their ethnicities and any sort of background. So that means all the students we have in schools to have equal educational opportunities and equal educational outcomes. So as an educator, education professional, we all have that responsibility to make sure that all of our students have the equal educational outcome. And by incorporating that equitable educational principle in our school organizational policies, we can actually make sure that every student, irrespective of their background, ethnicity, can achieve equal educational outcome. I hope this is helpful. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. Thank you again.